Right, best in slot LMG part 2. Time to crack on with the big boys. And hopefully you can all see what weapon I'm using so you can stop asking me about this damn thing. So yeah, anyway, best in slot LMG part 2. So far we have covered in part 1 high end with 3-piece Providence, high end with 2-piece Petrov, a high end spotter build and a interesting blue screen with Negotiator's Dilemma. Although these are all pretty damn good builds, they're all pretty niche, and when it comes to top end DPS there are 2 gear sets which are la creme de la creme, which we'll be going over mostly in this video. So, let's kick things off with a good one. Up first is a personal favourite of mine, rocking 60 crit chance, 142% critical hit damage. We're going to run the rate of fire roll here. We have 100% amp, and we also get some bonus armour. 4-piece Heartbreaker, utilising the chest, Coyote's mask, and a Cheska backpack. I've left the talent on the backpack unmarked, simply because it really is dealer's choice. Vigilance would be best in slot, however, Unstoppable Force is also up there as well, or if you want to play a bit more of a defensive playstyle, we can go for Composure. Now the first thing people are going to ask me about this is, if you're running an LMG here, why not use Dare for perfect flatline? And the simple answer is, at no point does Dare even keep up with the L86. We do on average 16.48% more DPS, even including perfect flatline. It's really not worth it. Pretty much in every LMG build, minus a few, your best is going to be the L86 or the RPK, regardless of what other weapon talent you may think will be giving you a bonus. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, but in case you didn't watch that, the reason we're going for the rate of fire roll is 1, it is technically best in slot regardless. However, we're using Heartbreaker, so the idea here is to build stacks. Having an increase in your fire rate, albeit not by much, is going to help with that. So, DPS wise, we're doing it with 0 stacks, halfway, and then at full stack. So at 0 stacks we're doing 32 to 30% less DPS. At halfway we're doing 0.7 to -1, so we're basically on par. And at full stacks we're doing 34 to 32% more DPS. Now, although this is a slow start to the DPS, it is probably the best DPS build for LMGs at the moment. 1, you're running flatline. 2, Heartbreaker. Where you're unable to use a shield with LMGs, having the bonus armor is very worthwhile. It essentially allows you to run an LMG run and gun build, and the DPS of this thing at maximum stacks is surprisingly powerful. Up next is probably the top tier. This is like the highest DPS you can really get conventionally, at least with an LMG. 59% crit hit chance, 142% critical hit damage. We're going to go with a rate of fire roll, 100% amp, and we're rocking 732 RPM because we're running strikers, 4 pieces including the backpack, Cheska chest with Obliterate, and Contractor's gloves. We're running Contractor's gloves for 2 reasons. 1, the LMG damage, it's just enough to tip the balance in this build's favour, and the second one is obviously to get some damage to armour on there. There is another variant of this build which is slightly lower in DPS, despite rocking 60% crit chance and 172% critical hit damage. We're obviously going rate of fire again, we have 100% amp, and we're still rocking that 732 RPM. All the difference here is rather than using Contractors, we're now using Coyotes. You can swap out the Cheska chest for Grupo, however, this will be a slight DPS drop in close range, but during mid-range combat this will be a slight DPS increase, 3% either way. You drop 3% at close range, but you gain 3% at medium. Now I'm actually comparing these two builds together because they're basically pretty much identical in terms of output. However, the one which called G Strikers is the one with Contractor's gloves, and the one that's CM Strikers is Coyote's mask. What you probably can't see just yet, in the next image I have highlighted it in red for you, which is their full buff. However, the Coyote's mask Strikers with 0 stacks starts out slightly stronger by about 2%. However, eventually, by the time it even gets to about half stacks, the build with Contractors starts doing more. At half stacks, G Strikers will do 6.3 to 4.8% more DPS than our high-end builds, whereas the Coyote's mask Strikers will do 1.19 to 2.83. At maximum stack, the Strikers build using Contractors will do 41 and 39 respectively, and the build with Coyote's mask will do 34 and 37. So Coyote's mask starts out stronger, but very quickly Contractor's gloves will outperform Coyote's mask. And then finally we get to a unique build. Now I'm leaving this build to last for 2 reasons. 1, it's niche as hell. 2, it's really niche. 3, I don't recommend playing this in the open world. It's really niche. 4, although the DPS of this is absolutely insane, it is very hard to control as well as maintain your buff uptime. For those that know, you know. For those that don't know, I am obviously talking about Sleipnir. Now, just as a quick tangent, just in case people are curious, the build I was running in the previous video was 4 Strikers, Contractor's gloves, and a Seska Obliterate chest. And the build that I'm running in this video is this one. Now, this build is statistically very weak. 56 crit chance, 81 crit damage. Sleipnir, so we're running rate of fire, 200% amp. We get 1260 RPM, but it literally will suppress everything. And it's for this that I just call this boss killer. That's literally it. The only times I really run this is 1 in legendary. It deals with chungers so quick, it's hilarious. Or raids, Lieutenant Grey, any boss really. The triplets on Dark Hours, this burns through them hilariously quick. It takes like 2 magazines and you can solo them. Ideally you'd want to be at full stacks, then proc Perfect Frenzy rather than use Perfect Frenzy to build up stacks, but it's just a hell of a lot of managing. Now, for the DPS, I have calculated it so that Perfect Frenzy is always active. It only works out to about 38% weapon damage, by the way. However, the main damage comes from the rate of fire. At 0 stacks, you're basically doing 30% less damage. At half stacks, you're doing 50% more. And at full stacks, you're doing 134 to 113. It's dumb. Like, it literally will double your damage if you're able to get to max stacks. For open world, you never really will get to max stacks, and to push this further, you're not really going to get that much use out of it, because typically, I've got actually really lucky with the footage, but typically when I play this out and about in the open world, the moment I start firing, everything in a 30 block radius just becomes suppressed, and the buff and your striker stacks are then completely wasted. So I don't recommend it. It is very powerful, however I mainly use it for legendary chungers as well as raids. That's literally it. Right, I've condensed this a little bit, but hopefully it just makes it a bit easier. High-end 3-piece Providence is 8.4 million average DPS. High-end Petrov is 7.8. Blue screen, single target, no vial is 4.7. Spotter is 7.8. Heartbreaker at maximum stack is 11.3. Strikers with Contractor's gloves is 11.9. Strikers with Coyote's mask is 11.5. And Sleipnir obviously coming in at a dumb 19.1. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.